Before we get into it today, I would just like to remind everyone that we encourage you and we welcome your questions and your comments. We love when it's interactive, when we hear your feedback, hear your thoughts, and we use this opportunity to answer your questions and to dig deeper into the Word. Family Word and Worship, or head pastor, Pastor Junior Tucker, he is taking a little time off, so hence my leading today. But we're still keeping the word of the word of the Lord and honoring his intentions for us as we dig into the word and dig into the sermon that was preached on the past Sunday, as we go deeper. So please, we welcome your questions, welcome your comments, and we love to have this session be interactive. So for last Sunday, I had the honor of preaching and bringing the word as I was led, and it was in keeping with the theme that has been running for the past number of weeks, namely the favor of God. That has been a very, very powerful series that Pastor Junior has been leading us through, and the word of the Lord, the Spirit of the Lord rather, continued to carry us through that, in keeping with that theme during my sermon. And the title of Sunday's sermon was Favor Follows Authenticity. And we took a look at the book of Matthew, chapter 5, when we looked at verses 13 to 16, where we're talking about, the Bible rather, is talking about the calling on the people of God to be the salt of the earth, to be the light of the world, and that purpose cannot be fulfilled in hiding, cannot be fulfilled in a closed room, cannot be fulfilled by trying to shun or to hide away from what it is that we are really called to and called to do. And verse 14 speaks to us being the light of the world, and a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. God designed us and created us not to hide and not to shy away and not to be under a bucket or under a bowl or hiding in a room. We're supposed to stand on a hill and be beacons of light for the world. So we looked at a couple examples of that topic, namely favor following authenticity. And we looked at Genesis chapter 6, and that's the story of Noah, where Noah, who lived a life of authenticity in God, he followed God's rules, he followed God's laws, he lived according to God's will. And we see where when God did what I like to call Operation Clean Sweep, Noah and his family were saved because of his commitment to being authentic and living according to the calling of God and the will of God. When the rest of the world was wiped out, he and his family were spared. And that is a clear indication and a clear example of the favor of God, and as an example within the Bible. I mean, there are many other examples that we can call on. There is the story of Daniel, there's Esther, and I mean, the list goes on, but I chose to zero in on that one. We took a look at some real world examples as well, one of them being Oprah Winfrey, and reference was made to a speech that she gave, an acceptance speech she gave at an award ceremony. And she speaks about understanding and feeling that there was a greater calling on her life from a very young age, and surrendering to that calling and praying to the Lord, asking him to use her. And her words were, use me, what you would have me do. So she was surrendering to that calling. Even before she would know what the details of that calling was, she surrendered to that calling. And we see now where her walking in that purpose has manifested. We see the favor of God manifesting in her, and we also see the fullness of God's favor as it is on her life. We looked at a few points that connected with our theme. And the first point we looked at was the importance of us knowing our purpose in God. It is for us to truly walk in the favor of God, we need to know and live our individual purpose. And we looked at Proverbs 19:21, which speaks to, despite the fact that we as individuals may have these grand ideas and things that we want to achieve for ourselves, it is the Lord's purpose that will prevail and always will prevail. We went on to look at the second point being God qualifying the called. It is so easy for us when we realize what our calling is for us to shy away and to backpedal and and identify all the reasons why we're not qualified. We're not smart enough. We haven't studied for this particular thing. We're not the best public speaker. We're not the best caregiver. We don't have enough money. And I mean, depending on the individual you speak to, you'll get a lot of I'm not enough. But that's not the issue, because God qualifies those who he calls. He will equip those who he calls. So no matter what the calling may be, the importance is to just surrender to that calling and allow God to download into you or provide in his organic, all-knowing way the skills and the knowledge and whatever tools will be required to walk and live that purpose to his glory in the best way possible. So it's never about worrying about our own qualifications and our own skill sets in our own strength, because it's not about us, it's about the Lord and his provision. An example was given of Matthew. The scripture that we for the sermon was the book of Matthew. And if we look at who Matthew was, before being called to discipleship, Matthew was a tax collector, which is probably the most disgusting and horrible profession to have had in that time. This tax collectors were usually a member of the Jewish community who was working for the Roman Empire and also stealing from their own fellow brothers and sisters, because it was a well-known fact that while they collected for the Roman Empire, they collected for themselves as well. So they were, despite whatever salary they would have been getting from the Roman Empire, they were also stealing from their own people to pad their own pockets. And despite this dishonest trade that Matthew was involved in, the Lord still chose him, and he qualified him to be able to walk with the Son of God and to be able to be entrusted with the responsibility to document the word for us that we now have as the book of Matthew. So God absolutely qualifies the called. Then we moved on to taking a look at the weight of our calling. Yes, it is, the calling of God is never going to be a walk in the park. It's never going to be the easiest thing since sliced bread. It's never going to be, in some cases, the most comfortable thing. But God makes that burden light. And we took a look at the scripture, 2 Corinthians 12, verses 8 and 9, where the request is being made to the Lord to take this burden from me, take it away from me. But the Lord's response is, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. God's grace is sufficient to lighten the load of any calling that he will place on us. I gave an example of in my own life, where when I recognized and realized that there was a calling on my life to preach, I done the thing, and I can't do this, and this is too much. And understanding the severity and the magnitude of this calling, and the fact that we're talking about people's lives and people's salvation, that wasn't lost on me. And I did not necessarily think myself the most able candidate to take on such a significant level of responsibility. And it's only through submitting and realizing where I sit and who I am tapped into do I realize that it's not in my strength, and I will never have enough strength to do it, but God will provide, and He has. And I see that all of that anguish and those fears and all of that I would have, it would have manifested previously. It was a waste of energy. It was an absolute waste of energy. It was not necessary, because at the end of the day, God provides the strength to carry and execute the calling that He will place on anyone's life. And every one of us that He has created, He has placed a calling on our life. And He will provide us with the strength and through His grace to do what He wishes, what He wants of us, and for it to be done for our good and for His glory. And we took a look at the importance and the need to live in this authenticity and to walk in this authenticity in God. And the first point that we looked at was interconnectivity. And when I say interconnectivity, I'm talking about the fact that every single one of us in His kingdom, we're all connected in some way. And the ability for one person to continue to move and grow in their purpose is dependent on someone else living and walking in their purpose. It's never something that's done and achieved in complete isolation. And I gave an example of Pastor Junior, or head pastor. If he didn't stay true to his calling, and follow and be disciplined to his calling, we wouldn't be where we are as a church family. Because the calling that was on his life was to plant this church. And it's through him honoring that calling and staying true to it that I have achieved my salvation. I came into this church as somebody who was trying to figure out themselves, not too sure my head from a foot bottom. And it was in this space that was created that I found the fellowship, I got the word, I was being poured into, and I am able to grow and evolve in my purpose to where I am today and where I am going in my life. So it's important for us to follow follow the calling that is on our life, and to live it in an authentic way according to God's will for the purpose of interconnectivity, because another person's salvation, another person's growth, another person's maturity in spirit is tied to the things that we are supposed to do, the calling that is placed on us. And the final point was the fact that when we walk in authenticity and we receive a level, and we're able to live a type of peace that it can't be compared to anything. There's a sense of peace that is on your life, that's in your life, that, I mean, you can't compare it to anything. When you start feeling and seeing God's grace and His guidance and His provision and His strength manifest in your life, and you realize that, you know what, no matter how much you feel, boy, it's kind of lonely. When you have all of that in you, and you see that and you feel that, you realize that there's peace. There's no need for me to be worried. There's no need to be anxious, because there is that peace that comes from knowing the God that we serve and feeling and seeing Him manifesting in us. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, for today's meeting, or session rather, I have the pleasure of two of my very, very good friends joining us to talk about their own experiences in the season, and as we go through this series on the favor of God, how has it been for them? What has their experiences been? So today we have joining us Susan Beadle and Colette Curlew. So I will start by inviting Susan to join us. Susan, how you doing? Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
How has this season been for you? How has this series on favor been for you? What has your experience been?
Okay, so my life has been so full of favor within the last few years. It's really kind of crazy. But I'm gonna just zero in on my most recent experience, which has been this whole journey of my going to Barbados to study. Can I just tell you that all now I know I'm reach Barbados? I'm gonna spend 10 months and I'm gonna come home. I just don't know. But one of the experiences that has stuck with me was before I left, because some people would know, some of you may not know, that I was self-funded, right? I went to Barbados without any funding, but that was not my intention initially. Because of course you're going away to study, you know, you have to get some funding. So I, had my plan. I was writing to this place and writing to that place and, sending out, calling all my contacts and saying, make sure you push this through for me. And I had it worked out because I have all these contacts and, everything, Chris. And I went to somebody to find out if that organization could assist me. And I was told, you know what, we can work something out, but let's try some other places. Let's make this a last resort. Let's try some other places first. And if nothing doesn't work out, then, you can come to us. So I tried all of the other places, feeling quite secure that in the back of my mind, I have a last resort. Well, when it became clear that I had to go to the last resort, I was actually at the church office and I called the person, and pretty much they kind of just shut everything down and said, no, we can't do anything for you. And I was devastated. Let me just say that prior to that, Pastor Trudy had already spoken in one of our sermons over me about me going to Barbados and doing well in Barbados. And so I knew that that was what I was supposed to be doing, because, I felt it and it was confirmed by my leaders. So I knew I was supposed to go, but then my last resort is telling me no. So I was like, what? So in true Suzanne fashion, I went into the bathroom at Phoenix Avenue and just sit on the floor and bawl. And I called a friend of mine and he was like, what is wrong with you? You're a child of God though. I'm giving you 2 minutes to stop crying. You have 2 minutes to bawl and get it out. And then let's go. And as soon as I hung up the phone from him, a friend of mine had sent me a WhatsApp message saying to me, would you be okay with me starting a GoFundMe page in a particular group that we're in on your behalf to raise money for your studies? And I was like, because this is not the plan I had. And he said to me, no, it's not the time for pride. So do I do it or do I not do it? And I was like, okay. And then I thought to myself, look at God just showing me, listen, I own everything. It have to be the way you have it in your head. I can do this if I want. And what was funny was that the GoFundMe was very unsuccessful. Okay. But it's proof to me that if I want to do a GoFundMe, I can do a GoFundMe. I don't know why you think it has to be through Chase or, wherever. I can do it wherever I want to do it. But because of the effort of the GoFundMe, people said, I'm not in the GoFundMe thing, but here. I want to contribute in this way and I really like the GoFundMe, but here. And I mean, the long and short of it is that I went to Barbados, stayed and did my studies, did well, came back home. I don't own a funding agency in the money.
Outstanding.
Still paying for it. But the point is, this is what was supposed to happen. And had I, instead of being anxious about it and trying to do it in my way, what I learned was, this is what the Lord has ordained in your life. He will wait. Why don't you just trust him?
Absolutely.
Trust and go sit down in a bathroom and a ball and all these things. Just believe. If you believe that this is what you're ordained to do, why would he put this mandate on your life and then not provide a way? That makes no sense. That's not the God that we serve.
Absolutely.
I mean, I went to Barbados. I can listen. People that's out of the blue are like, "Oh, you want to borrow some $600 here? You pay airfare, yeah, whatever." And I just got. Sorry, I got there. I got the perfect house with the perfect roommates overlooking the ocean, which is what I asked for. I did very well in my studies. I was able to make some really great friends and great connections. You know, I was able to take soul art to Barbados. And, you know, like we can't tell you how me reach Barbados, Theresa. We cannot tell you how me reach and how me do well. COVID hit and it was very stressful, but we still, you know, made it through. And even just coming home, I didn't know I was coming home until the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just happened to be able to say, okay, I need to leave this house and set myself up so that when a flight becomes available, I've got a place in Christchurch, which is close to the airport listen, this man has an Airbnb that he charges $100 a night for, $100 Barbadian dollars a night for.
Mm-hmm.
He charged me $100 for the whole week.
Wow. Look at that.
No deposit required. You don't have to give me any notice. Just let me know when you get on a flight and we're good.
Wow.
From the airport. I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm available and I was like, oh my God, I can't afford it. And one of my lecturers said, how much you have? I'll pay the balance. I mean, it was just over and over and over and over again, even, you know, finding somewhere to quarantine and finding where I'm going to live, where I'm living now. It's just been just the Lord planning it in his way and orchestrating it in his way. I don't need you, Suzanne. And it's my plan anyway. It's not your plan, it's mine. So let me just do it. So, you know, I feel like just embracing, first of all, being able to hear the Lord and know what he has in store for you. And embracing the fact that if I believe that this is what God has for me, he'll find a way, he'll allow me to do it. He'll make the way. It might not be the way I have in my head or the way I see it happening, but he will make the way. And allowing it to just happen. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Your parts. You know, you stay close to him, you stay on your knees, you stay in the word, you work hard, you do well, you do what you're supposed to do, and let him do what he's supposed to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, just listening to your testimony, a couple of things really have just stuck out for me. And it's just one of the first ones for me is God gives us what we ask for. You're making reference to your home and being on the beach and girl, them pictures. Oh my goodness!
I wanted somewhere
mind
that I
was
could walk
active.
to school. I wanted to be able to walk to school, and I wanted something overlooking the beach, and that's exactly what I got.
Oh yes, and
called one day. A friend of my brother's called me and she said, "By the way, there's a room becoming available at my house. You want me to hold it for you?" And I was like,
"Wow,
wait, what? Oh. And it turns out that her boyfriend was in my class, so we just became this one little nice little family. It was just, listen, I could not have written the script. I could not have directed it. I just could not.
Wow, that is awesome. That is powerful. That is absolutely powerful. I mean, that's something that we all need to hear. That's a testimony we all need to hear. When he calls us, he's gonna provide everything that we need. And there's no need for us to be stressing and to be worrying, how is this gonna fall into place? Where am I gonna get the money from? Whatever the stress, it organically falls into place. He makes that happen. That's awesome.
It kind of doesn't make sense, because if I send Shanique to the supermarket and I say I needed to buy X and Y and Z, I'm going to give her the money to go. I'm not going to expect her to go and pick up the money on the street. I mean, I'm going to provide, if I ask her to do something or I give her instructions, I'm going to provide the means by which she does it. So if we do that, we not expect that the Lord is going to do the same.
Absolutely. That's the perfect way to phrase it. The absolutely perfect way to phrase it. I love that. That is awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to invite in Colette Curlew now to share her story and her experience during this season of favor and walking in the fog. Welcome, Colette.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. How y'all doing?
We're good.
For me, so Susan, talk about the physical, what's happening, the financial, I should say, right? Let me focus on the emotional. So the peace of God, the shalom. I mean, oftentimes when you think of favor, we ignore that side of our human being. And I need to emphasize that today, that what I got out of the authenticity and spending time with God and just being the Christian, walking good, and I put that in quotation, because you have good days and you have bad days, is the peace, his shalom. And that's divine favor for me. You have joy, perpetual joy. You have a purposeful life, because what I find, and I think you have joined me on some of the sessions, I will remark at the end of it how fulfilling this was. And when you have a purpose-filled life, it's like you're living more abundantly in him, because now you're doing impact work for the kingdom of God. So that is, for me, I'm starting there as a foundation. His peace, his joy, his provisions now, and the love, unconditional love and acceptance. Because I was born in the era when if your family weren't married, you're a bastard. If your parents weren't married. My parents got married later on, and all of that redeem and turn around, because on my birth certificate now it says Mr. and Mrs. Curlew. Initially it came out with Curlew and Williams, now it's Curlew. So God redeemed that as well. And for me, back in those days, Theresa, I mean, you must be thrilled that your parents were married. But back in the day, when you reach my age and those earlier than me too, we were bastards back then. Manly is the one that revolutionized it. And I'm not promoting any political party. It's just a status. And it impacted me negatively all my life. Until he says there are no bastards here. We are all children, sorry, and we are legitimate children. And that kind of is who God says we are as well.
Absolutely.
We are his child, and therefore you are no bastard, and I chose you. I selected you. So in that paradigm shift of mine now, I got validation, I got self-worth and self-esteem, and that took a while to process, right? Let me come into financial blessings now. I remember we were living in a home and the mortgage was killing us. And I said to the Lord one day, you know what happened? Because them calling and said I'm ready to repossess and go sell. So I say, you know what happened, Lord? If I go live at the Gully Bank up the road and have you, I am fine. And I let it go. Within 2 weeks after that, we got a call that there was money in France and the money was enough to pay off for the house. Okay? So mortgage was paid off. That's divine favor. That's when you say, okay, Lord, I submit everything to you and I owe this big bill, but you own the cattle and the hill. Not you? Now that's him doing own everything. You orchestrate it, Lord. I let it go and I say, I will live on the Gully Bank once I have you. And I made that declaration. We made that declaration. Mortgage was paid off and enough money left to buy fridge and stove. Because we needed a new fridge and stove. We had Jada and things were rough back then. Rough. And Jada was a sickly child. You see, every time I got to doctor, you have health insurance? No? Okay, no charge.
Wow.
And that happened for about 10 years. Even now, if we go there, there's no charge. If they'll take the health insurance, but they're not going to take any money. All right? Favor of God. Children, Javane, where you want to go? Oh, I want to go to university in New York, Wisconsin. Where's the US dollars coming from? Don't worry, God says he'll provide it. Where you want to go? He went, he came back, we didn't owe a cent. Nicholas went local and he was fine. Jada, where you want to go? Foreign? Okay, here we go again. And she's still going. Got a job. The money, when they asked me how much money I wanted, right? When I just got this job, I went on as a project manager and I just wanted enough money to pay my car payments. So I told them that money and I got it. And I go, but Khaled, you stupid, you know? Just so how you gonna live? Anyway, long and short of it is within a couple months, it's like the money doubled. Fast forward now, things change in my life completely. This is a single income household now, and what was I going to do? Because I can't manage the bills on that. There was a review of our salary package and it doubled.
Wow.
And Pastor Junior predicted it. He prophesied and said, you're going to get an increase in your job. I mean, in your pay, a ridiculous increase. And I didn't expect it to be like that. So no, I can live within my means now and not worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
The favor of God for me is just constant. His provision is constant once you rest and abide in him. And remember who you are and whose you are, and live in that authenticity. Come again, authenticity. So, I mean, that's it for me. I continually, and the thing that it empowers me to do now, because I'm doing that, I'm able to impact others. And so this is my life story, and I live to help others, to empower others to be victorious. So that is
awesome.
Me. Yes.
What I love is that the point that you mentioned about the peace and joy that you have. And a lot of the times we mistake, and I think in last week's Go Deeper, Andrea touched on it, where we mistake God's favor as dollars and cents, or the house, the car, the whatever it is. But there is something called God's peace that you can't pay for that. And when and Pastor touched on it at one point in time during his series, where he talked about the ability to just be able to sleep. Where these are things that they may not seem tangible, and you can't touch it and you can't carry it to the supermarket, but remove those things from your life, and we live a very, very different and a very, very uncomfortable, unhappy life. And these things are direct gifts from God. This is a manifestation. These things are a manifestation of the favor of God.
Indeed, indeed. And for me, if I am broke, I am fine if I have the peace of God. And I think he has tested me over the years where that is concerned, and recognize that that is so true. And it is something that is intangible, but so powerful. And I want people to understand that you don't need to have money to be happy.
Absolutely.
Peace of mind, the joy of the Lord will give you strength. Those are the things that you must chase after and hunger after and thirst after, apart from the righteousness of God, and with that will come these things as well, the fruit of the Spirit.
Absolutely. And another point that you made, that I made a note of here, is the statement, we need to remember who we are, which is the authenticity and walking in purpose, but also we need to remember whose we are, who we belong to, who we're connected to, who our source is, and as opposed to the focusing on what are the things that we want to try and gather onto ourselves. So that's a very, very important point. I want everybody to kind of to hold on to as we walk through this life, and things come at us, and people do things to us, and we have experiences. Irregardless of what those things are, positive or negative, always to keep us centered, to keep us grounded and focused, we always need to remember who we are and whose we are, and who we're connected to, and the magnitude and the majesty of who we are connected to. So that's a great point, and I've actually made a note of this. I'm gonna use this sometimes.
And
I will give you credit.
Well, it's not mine, but thank you. And to recognize, that the no's that he'll give you is not rejection, is what's best for you in the moment. And you may not see why it's best for you, but accept it and move on. Recognize that this may not be the time or the place for that to happen. Recognize that there's a reason, a season, and a lifetime in terms of even relationships. So if you're fighting too hard to keep a relationship, maybe that's not the one. You understand what I'm saying? So be able to decipher those things and discern what's happening and what are the seasons and the times for things, and ask God for guidance. He certainly will give you. He's waiting to communicate with you. He's waiting for you to reach out to him.
Yeah. Just to add to what Colette just said about the time and the season and in God's timing, because I wanted to go to Barbados in 2018 and I wasn't allowed I didn't get the leave that I needed. And I was tempted to be upset. And I was like, hey, these people are not in charge of my life. God is in charge of my life. So when he's ready for me to go, I'll go. And it would not have been this particular experience had I forced the issue and gone the year before. You know what I mean? So he knows, and we keep forgetting. If you're like me, it's tough. Keep reminding yourself, he knows. He has a plan. He has a plan, and it's a good plan.
Absolutely.
And he has predestined and pre-ordered it. So just to wait till the time is right.
Yep, absolutely. All right, ladies, we have a question. And I invite you, please, to take a stab at it. Peace, joy, sleep. I would really like to experience this in its fullness, especially in this season. It's rough. Help.
Let me say something quickly first, because I feel like this is Colette's area of expertise. When I first started coming to Family Word and Worship Church, I was a bad sufferer of insomnia. Listen, DPH was my friend. I'm sure in some parts of the world, the way I use DPH would have been illegal. Let me tell you. Just to sleep, I would just DPH. It's a horrible, horrible thing to just not have enough rest. But we don't look at it as something that we can pray for and ask God for, because just like him own the car and the house, and him own that too. Look at these intangibles, as Colette said, as part of his favor.
Absolutely.
And I slept in Barbados. Whenever I went to bed, I slept, and I'm sleeping. Because, when resting in the Lord can give you so many things. And the Lord is not, he has not, I think Pastor Tucker said the other day, a few weeks ago, the Lord didn't say, oh my God, what is this? What is this virus? Oh, I wasn't ready for this. Oh no, what am I going to do? Let me go scramble and get a protocol together. No, he's God. And very often when we look at our prayer life, we don't pray for these intangibles. We're not intentional about trying to grow in these areas. And I think that's one way, even in the middle of the madness, for us to say, Lord, you desire for me to have peace. You desire for me to have joy. You desire rest for me. You rested. Desire it for me. You will give it to me. As long as I lean into you and hear your voice and follow your plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to add to that is that our knowledge of God will determine how we trust him, how much we trust him. And so the foundation of our relationship with him is built on what we know of him. How much of his word we know, how much we trust him, how much time we spend building that relationship. And when you have that down pat, then these things will come in. So what is happening is that we're focused on the world around us. We're focused on the unemployment. We're focused on the bills coming in, the fact that we're not earning enough, the fact that I don't have no man, I don't have no woman, I don't have no children, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And we're looking more at what we don't have rather than what we have. And so that's one thing that disturbs our peace. Next thing is that you mentioned joy as well. Where is the source of your joy? Is it those things that we just mentioned, or is it the relationship with God and your purpose and living in that? Because I think that's what we need to start striving for. We need to stop looking at what the things of this world promotes, and rather look into our relationship with God, building the kingdom of God, investing in there. And when you find God and find his peace, then that's when nothing else matters. I tell you, I was ready to be out on the street because they were coming to take away the house. But I said, Lord, I let it go. And I said, whatever it is, but I have you, and that's what matters. And the peace was restored. The joy was restored from that moment onwards. Anytime that I lose it, I know it's because I'm looking at the world now and I've taken my eyes off the cross.
Absolutely.
So it is in that relationship with him that you'll have the peace and joy. Intimate relationship with him. And it's when you go through some trials, holy tribulations, that you build that relationship with him as well, and spending time in the word, spending time with other believers, others that are way ahead of you, listening to sermons and testimonies, and your own testimonies as well, because that's how we defeat the enemy coming at us too, by the word, blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. So we have to remember what happened in the past and remind ourselves God was faithful. He did this then, he will do it now. So that's another way to build it, but it's to focus on God and not on the world and what's happening around you.
That's okay. Full sentences. That's very impactful. And it really has connected. I think it really has connected with a lot of people, because this question, I think it touches on the reality of so many people, where it's we know God, but we're not intimately connected to him. And then we see things manifesting around us. We're distracted by these things that are manifesting around us. And instead of, as you said, both of you said, aligning our attention and our focus and our energy with God and continuing to foster and build and grow that relationship, we start to shift the focus to the stuff. And then the stuff takes on a life of its own and becomes overwhelming and daunting. And then we're starting to think in our own strength and our own abilities. I can't overcome this. Where's the money going to come from? How the husband won't fix himself and behave right. The wife won't behave right. Those are the things.
Where's the husband?
Or turn up. Or turn up. The husband will turn up.
Exactly. But it's, and as long as we continue to focus on the proverbial closed doors, we're denying ourselves that opportunity to allow God to do his work in us, build a relationship with him, so that he sets us at that point where the husband, the wife, the 2.5 kids, and the puppy will all manifest, because we're now ready to receive it, and we've grown and evolved to the point where he goes, okay, yes, ready to press that button for you now. So that door will now open for you, as opposed to sitting away, why me? So that's very, very impactful response from you both ladies. We have one more question. How do I stay consistent in resting in the Lord throughout the different seasons of life?
Okay.
Go Suzanne.
I remember, I think it was Melissa who preached one Sunday, and I don't remember this college. She said, test his track record. You alluded to it a while ago, right? If he's done it before, he will do it again. And when I find that I start getting overwhelmed, it's because I have backed off of my relationship with him.
That's correct.
Right, for relationships with people, we quarrel when people don't want to spend time with us. You know, it might be your best friend not spending time with you, or your children, or your spouse, or whoever it is. They're not spending time with you, and you're upset and you quarrel. And you are saying, oh, the relationship needs work. Well, the relationship with God is a relationship as well. And it needs work as well. You have to work on it. And if you stay in that relationship and you remember, you know what, last week, this is what he did. The week before, this is what he did. Just like our other relationships. If somebody comes to me and says to me that, somebody says X and Y, or somebody did Y and Z, I can know, do I believe them or not? Because I know the person.
That's correct.
So if you maintain your relationship with God and God does not change, then you remember that, you know what? 2 years ago, he did this. Last year, he did this. Last week, he did this. Yesterday, he did this. Why am I anxious today? And I'm speaking to myself as well. We don't treat the relationship. I don't know. We think like, oh, we're just going to say a prayer and it will magically just, we have intimacy with the Lord. No, we have to work on it in the same way that we work on relationships generally. But if you maintain that relationship, then the trust in him and the the knowledge and the faith that he will do what he has always done will remain with you.
One of
That's
the
the knowledge is important. The knowledge, the intimacy. Theresa, I know you, and I know if you say you're going to be here by X time, you're going to be here. You understand what I'm saying? Unless God stop you out there, and you're going to communicate with me, and you're going to tell me why, because I'm on my way, and we'll talk about it, right? It's the same thing. You can't have intimacy without relationship, without spending the time with the person by yourself as well, not just with a crowd. And reading his word, because that's how you build the faith, and trusting him. And I need to tell you, one of the blocks for doing that sometimes is our negative relationship with man or men on this earth. So if we had a poor father relationship, something happened and some gentleman hurt you or something, we tend to deflect this onto God sometimes, and that impairs our relationship with him. So I have to make sure that we get rid of that baggage as well, because God, I mean, it's something that I struggled with as well. And at one camp, God said to me, I'm not man. Stop treating me like man. And I was on my face, I was bawling and had to apologize to him. It was true. He is not man. So stop treating him like man. He will do what he says he will do within the time that he wants it done for you. And that's what I think certain people miss the timing and think he's not going to do it, and then don't trust him and write him off. He's going to do what is best and right for you within his time for you.
In my early days, in just starting my Christian walk, I struggled with that recalling and keeping in the forefront of my mind the blessings that I was receiving from the Lord on a daily basis. And I came across a little article once, and it spoke to, when you pray, to write down what it is that you pray for, and when those prayers manifest, to make a note that this prayer manifested on X date. And even beyond that, when you have when you're blessed, even if it's something that you didn't pray for, make a note of it and keep this running log. And from time to time, take it up, flip the pages back and look at it. And that will bring you back. That's a tactile way to bring you back to center. And that's something that I did a lot. And I actually came across that book recently. And I'm seeing 2017, 2018, things that I had prayed for that didn't manifest the last year. I even forgot I was doing this, because I got to a point where I was more stable in my walk, and I was starting to feel a little stronger. So I will admit I dropped the habit, which I've started to do again. But that is for the two persons who asked those two questions. That may be something that you can try and apply, a technique you can try and apply to your life that may help you to, in this walk, to achieve that strength and that stability and strengthen your legs, so to speak, as you walk, as you make your Christian walk. But it cannot replace all of the things that you would have said about developing that relationship, building that intimacy, consistency in developing that relationship. And another thing,
okay,
go ahead. Okay. Another thing to touch on is, it cannot be overstated the importance of us building relationships with fellow believers and connecting ourselves to fellow believers, establishing mentor-mentee type relationships or small groups that I tend to call church small groups, and aligning yourself with a group of believers who are at varying degrees in their walk. And some people might be at the same place with you. Some people might be further ahead. But we're all together. We're all on the same journey, and we're all supporting each other in the walk. So even in those moments when you feel you're a little shaky legs, boy, you're not too certain, and things are happening, kind of knock you off center, these are the people that will help to keep you centered and help you walk and answer some of the questions that you'll have as we go through and we study the word, and questions come up and we don't quite understand it. These are the people who will serve to help us to stay focused, work it through, understand better, and grow. So it can never be overstated, the importance of developing those types of relationships.
And also to know thyself. Yes. So in being authentic, you have to know yourself. You have to have your identity established, and you believe it. That's why I would say who you are. You need to know who you are in Christ as well, and the authority that you have. And that will also help with you being authentic, you being assertive, you with your relationship with others as well, yourself, with others, and with God.
Absolutely. Okay, ladies, we have one more question. I've heard Pastor Junior make mention of this statement in a sermon: hurry up and wait. But I'm still yet to understand this. How do I hurry up, but yet still wait until it happens? Alice, you want to take that one?
I'm processing it as well. So okay. So I'm assuming that what he means is develop the gift of patience and wait and hurry up to do that. Is that what he means by it? I'm putting interpretation. And if I don't have it right, can somebody help me here too?
Well, I can tell you my interpretation, but go ahead, Susan.
I think that's what I was going to think. You hurry up to be patient, to be comfortable waiting on the Lord.
That's correct.
To get to that place where you're okay with God's timing. But I also remember Pastor Junior preaching on this whole waiting thing. And talk about another kind of wait, where he was talking about serving the Lord. And wait on the Lord. You know, make yourself available to the Lord while you wait for him to bless you or to, you know, to show favor to you. So, but either way, it's hurrying up to get to the place that God wants you to be, where you trust him, where you can relax in whatever timing he has, and where you're availing yourself to wait upon him. And that's the focus. The focus is getting me to that place as opposed to getting stuff.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there. So it is trusting him again to know he'll do it in his time. So I think the hurry up is to get quickly to the point where I just trust and release it to him. And I'm just patient, and his timing is perfect. So it's fine with me.
Yeah, my interpretation was similar to what Susan is saying, in that hurry up in the sense that you need to be actively preparing yourself for the manifestation. And that preparation, as you rightly said, Susan, comes from service and humbling yourself and doing as you are led by the Holy Spirit in that waiting season, because those acts of service and acts of selflessness are teaching you and preparing you for whatever it is that God is going to open up on your life. And if we're not in a place where we have achieved that level of preparation, then it's not going to manifest. So I understand that statement to be: prepare yourself, do the groundwork, do what God is leading you to do, through service, through whatever it is that he's telling you. And that is the hurrying up, and while waiting for his blessing, his calling, his whatever it is to unfold and manifest.
So in the preparation is maturity as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that purpose can be fulfilled in that. And
Absolutely.
developing the character of Christ in you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. This has been awesome. This is absolutely awesome. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for those nuggets that I have made a note of. But don't worry, I'll give you credit as I go forward and reuse them. But this has been a wonderful time as sisters to share and to dig deeper into the Lord's word, and hopefully to shed a little bit of clarity and light for the persons who ask these questions, so that they can go forward and live their authentic selves in God, and with God's peace, with God's joy, shalom, sleep, very important, sleep. And they can really be able to understand and see God's purpose manifest in their lives, and just surrender to it and walk in it wholeheartedly. Thank you to our viewers for joining us. It's been awesome. So happy to have you. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the interaction. We always appreciate it. And again, to everyone, please join us on our social media platforms. And it's at Family Word and Worship. And for anyone who would like to join us on Sunday morning at 10:30, just give us a call at 876-539-1050 to book your seat. or any questions that you may have, please feel free to give us a call or send us a WhatsApp. We'd love to hear from you, and we will respond as quickly as possible. And for those who can't make it on Sunday morning, please join us on our social media platforms at 10:30, where we will live stream our service. So thank you again for joining us. Have a great week. See you on Sunday.
Thanks for having us.
Shalom.
All right, bye.